Okay, here we go again. Everything seems to be working just fine. The microphone, the camera, everything. First try. Let's take advantage of this good fortune so I don't have to call my audio engineer. Okay, playing music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is the Midnight Skeptic show number 111. 111. It'll be broadcast on KPCA 103.3 locally and worldwide at kpca.fm this coming Sunday, the 12th of March. And today, as I'm recording this, it's Monday. It's about 2:20. Monday, I have written down the 8th. It's the 6th. Okay. Oh, it's good to be woke. It's good to be woke. It's good to be woke in the morning. Yes, it's an hour of proud wokeness brought to you worldwide and locally in Petaluma by the Midnight Skeptic, whose tagline is, in my own small way, meaning this show, I'm trying to rid this country of GOP, MAGA-head Republicans, one broadcast at a time. All right. Send all hate mail and death threats and even some constructive criticisms and suggestions to the Midnight Skeptic at gmail.com. I'll get them, and I'll deal with them in the appropriate fashion. Okay. Shout-outs. I'm going to try to get through this really quickly because I've got a lot of other things to talk about or rant about or ruminate about or disseminate to all of my thousands and thousands of listeners out there. Okay. International YouTubers and worldwiders on kpca.fm via Anchor and Spotify. Okay, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, a couple in Canada. Okay, locally, Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix, John Crowley at Aquas Cafe, Tim Conrad, Tom and Nancy, Kevin and Lori, Rich and Kathy, Keith and Cody, a new one that I haven't shouted out before, Art Kutsnads, and station manager Rob Tomaszewski, who's down there at Petaluma Community Access. I've got to mention him on every shout out from now on. I keep forgetting to do it. Nariman, Dennis and Megan down in that rich enclave of Tiburon. San Francisco, Yvonne Santos, Stan and Kathy in Pacifica. Jackie down in L.A. I'm so sorry for your loss, Jackie. Really, I am. Okay. And her two daughters, Samantha and Melanie. Arizona, my brother Brandon and his wife Mina and their daughter Andrea, a nurse, my niece. Take care of yourself, Andrea. The COVID is coming back in a disguised form. Okay, and her husband Tim and their three little great little kids. All right. They're getting older as we speak. Okay. Arkansas, Shannon Reed. Oh, and Karina Hilliard down in Patagonia, Arizona. Florida, Amelia Nelson, Alice, North Carolina. Dr. Dave, the world's finest lung doctor. Pulmonologist, I guess you'd call him. Okay, Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger and the Sonora Crowd, Robert and Colleen Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, their two kids, Brad and Martha. Martha, the nurse, please take care of yourself. Okay, Darrell, Judy, Leonidas, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle, John Gleason, and his two daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer, wherever they are. I'll get you some of the Proudly Woke t-shirts if you want them. And then down in Mexico City, Rosie Lopez Negrete. Okay, and I'm starting off this broadcast with good news, a good news quote. Okay, this goes back to 1989, and it was said on February 6th by Ronald Reagan, a decent Republican. Okay, in fact, I voted for him the first time he ran. Okay, and I'll talk more about the Reagan administration later, not later today, but maybe next week or the week after. It was the beginning of the de-evolution of the Republican Party. Okay, this is Ronald Reagan's quote. I do not believe in taking away the right of a citizen for sporting, for hunting, and so forth, or for home defense. But I do believe that an AK-47, a machine gun, is not a sporting weapon or needed for home defense. That's a direct quote from Ronald Reagan. Okay, on last week's show, when I was talking a lot about the problems with the railroad industry in this country, which, by the way, is the highest profitable business category in this country. Profit margins for businesses in general is about 9%, give or take. That means farming and mining and high tech and the auto industry and other manufacturing, retail, groceries, etc., etc. 9%. Okay. Railroads as a category, 51% profit margins. And I have been saying now for a couple of weeks that the railroad industry in this country should be nationalized. And yes, that's socialism. I agree. I'm pretty much of a socialist, a democratic socialist in the vein of Bernie Sanders. And in fact, I may be even a bit more lefty than he is. Anyway, enough of that. There's some clarifications that I need to make because on listening to last week's show, which I do to try to, make it better. Okay. Clarifications from last week's show. Railroading. Okay. Number one, all of these acronyms, I've got to explain them. The AAR, Association of American Railroads. It's an industry lobbying group with its own PAC. That's a pile of money that they buy politicians with. Mostly Republican politicians. They say on their website that they focus on safety and productivity. But in reality, profits are their primary concern at the expense of safety. Okay, that's the AAR, Association of American Railroads. Okay, number two, TCC. That stands for Tank Car Committee. They're a committee within the AAR, and it's a subunit of the industry. And they represent railroads and tank car builders and owners. Most railroads don't own their own tank cars. They lease them from the owners of them. Okay. And what this tank car committee, the TCC, does, they review tank car designs and safety standards, and mostly they consider the costs of improvements. There are single-shelled tank cars. There are double-celled tank cars. There are things added to tank cars that will slowly release pressures that sometimes build up inside tank cars when they're carrying these very volatile, dangerous chemicals, okay? Well, the primary job of the Tank Car Committee is to balance the cost of these improvements and safety features with actual safety, okay? I don't need to tell you people out there that safety quite frequently takes a backseat to increased costs. Increased costs means less profit. Okay, all right, so that's those things. Okay, the DOT, that's the Department of Transportation, and that's the federal agency that Mayor Pete Buttigieg is the head of. It's a cabinet position, and it's not just railroads, but shipping, freeways, car transportation, trucking, airlines, and railroads. All of that comes within the purview of the Department of Transportation. Okay. The FRA is Federal Railroad Administration. Okay, that's a department within the DOT, Department of Transportation. It creates and enforces all rail safety regulations for passenger trains, which is Amtrak, and freight rail transport. Now, believe me, the railroads spend millions of dollars on their Washington lobbyists to try to cut down on the regulations, which is a purely Republican thing. Republicans in general do not want the government regulating business. That's anti-capitalist. Okay. A bit off my notes. Okay. Okay. The things that are embedded or put into railroad tracks on the inside to detect hot boxes as trains go past, they are called wayside hot box detectors. And they're put on tracks at certain intervals. And they cost a lot of money. They really do. And railroads want them spread out as much as possible. The DOT, the FRA, the regulators, federal regulators, the ones that are supposedly concerned with safety, they want them closer together because these wayside hot box detectors then radio either the engineer in the diesel train or an office that has all these banks of computers and radio receivers so that they can radio the engineer in the cab of the diesel train and warn him if there are the wheels, the brakes, the bearings that are exceeding certain preset temperatures so that the engineer can roll the train off onto a siding and then disconnecting the car that has these temperature extremes before it flames up. Okay. Now, well, how hot does it have to be before the engineer is directed to do that? Well, of course, the railroad companies want that temperature to be set as high as possible. They don't want to waste time taking defective cars out of the train. Time is money. Okay, and the FRA, which is part of the Department of Transportation, wants the temperature set lower for safety reasons. Okay, well, there's headbutting on that issue. Okay. I was riffing a bit. Here's my actual notes. Okay, the wayside hot box detector is the name of the railroad safety devices used on railroad tracks to detect overheating. Okay, HABD, hot axle box detectors, can be set at various high temperatures. Modern detectors use a pre-recorded voice message to the crews. Okay, the voice will say, slow down the train, or take the train onto a siding or a double track. Okay, that's the message. If danger to any particular car is detected. Okay, makes sense. If it were used properly, if okay. Oh, by the way, there was yet another derailment in in Ohio by the same train company. Oh, geez. Brain freeze. Anyway, the same one in Palestine, except that this train only had 4 tank cars in it, and they were empty. However, they had residual chemical fumes. Okay. And that just happened yesterday. Okay. Enough railroading talk for a while. Okay, good investigation news. The NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, is investigating the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment. I'm just talking about it. So far, it has said that it was 100% preventable, but they, as of Tuesday, 2/28, haven't named a cause. Well, if they don't know for sure what caused it, how do they know it was 100% preventable? Well, they don't. Okay, sips. This is orange juice today. Okay, but ProPublica, it's a good news source, reports that a Norfolk Southern, that's the train I was trying to remember, and they were also responsible for the derailment yesterday in Ohio. Okay. Norfolk Southern policy lets officials order train crews to ignore safety alerts from its help desk. Okay, that's what I was trying to think of. The help desk is an office somewhere along the railroad right away where they have these banks of computer terminals and Okay. Okay, here it is, ProPublica. Norfolk Southern policy lets officials order crews to ignore safety alerts. In October, months before the East Palestine derailment, the company also directed a train to keep moving with an overheated wheel that caused it to derail later in Sandusky, Ohio. Okay, and I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but I was telling all my thousands of listeners that railroad companies want that dangerous temperature to be set higher and higher. And, okay, safety be damned. They want profits. Okay. ProPublica asked officials at 6 other Class 1 railroads. Class 1 are the largest ones. BNSF is the number one. Okay, they were asked if they had similar policies. All of them said, oh, no, not us. Okay. Okay, Train 32N, which was Norfolk Southern, had 38 rail cars go off the tracks. This is in East Palestine. There were in total 149 cars, which is too long. It's 9,000 feet, which is way over safety standards. 11 of them were carrying hazmat materials. 5 with vinyl chloride, which is a class 2 flammable, and 2 with benzene residue, which is a class 3 flammable. Okay, that's another way that railroads butt heads with the Department of Transportation and the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration. Well, if they can classify various chemicals as not hazardous, well, then the whole train is not a hazardous train. Okay, the temperature, spacing, classification of chemicals to be dangerous, all of these things are safety issues that really the railroads want to be done away with. Okay, the NTSB found that 2 hot box detectors did not set off alarms to the engineer as the heat threshold was not met. Okay, so the railroads must have set that temperature way higher so that the threshold would not be met. Okay, the 3rd hot box detector did. The wheels and the bearings were on fire by this time. Ultimately, it's the railroads that set the temperatures thresholds. NTSB's Homendy, that's a lady that's in charge of this, I don't know what her first name is, said at a news conference, this 3rd hot box recorded a 253 degrees Fahrenheit above the ambient temperature and alerted the crew audibly, that's these voice messages, to, quote, slow and stop the train to inspect a hot axle, unquote. That's the human-generated voice on these computers. The engineer applied the brakes, dynamic brakes that use the kinetic energy of the railroad wheels to create electricity, which causes the train to decelerate. Okay. ECP brakes, okay, which stands for electronically controlled pneumatic brakes, are the safest and more instantaneously working brakes, faster than the conventional air brake systems that takes roughly about 2 minutes to engage that last car on the train. The ECP brakes, electronically controlled pneumatics, set all the car's brakes instantaneously. Okay, if that last car is a bit heavy, the momentum of it with the old style air brakes will keep going at least for a little while and kind of smush the other cars in front of it together. That causes derailments sometimes. Okay, the AAR, Association of American Railroads, which is the trade group for railroads, is constantly harping on high failure rates, talking about these ECP brakes, and would not, this is their quote, provide a meaningful safety benefit. Well, what's meaningful to one group is crap to another group. Okay. ECP brakes are, well, they're expensive and require a highly trained electrician to repair and maintain them. Railroads want profits. They don't want to pay electronic technicians. Jeez. Okay. I'm kind of done with the railroad thing now. And after I take another sip of my orange juice. All right. Good news. Congressman Ro Khanna, he's our guy out here in California. I think he's in one of the congressional districts down south a little ways. Okay. And Chris Deluzio, Democrat, I can't read my writing. Pasadena, it looks like I was trying to write that. Introduced, quote unquote, in the House of Representatives, the Derail Act that would require the Department of Transportation to impose more strict regulations on trains carrying hazmat materials. Okay, that's hazardous materials, meaning hydrocarbon products or chemicals. Okay, step 1, modify the definition of high hazard flammable train. In other words, an HHFT. Well, the railroads don't want trains being classified willy-nilly as HHFT trains. They have to go slower. Okay, they want that modified definition to mean a single train with one or more loaded tank car with a Class 3 flammable liquid or a Class 2 flammable gas. The Secretary of Transportation, meaning Mayor Pete, determines is necessary. Okay, right now, 20 consecutive cars with dangerous hazmat materials, or that was 20 consecutive tank cars, or 35 tank cars dispersed throughout the train. Both are classified as HHFT, a high hazard flammable train. Whew. Okay, geez, I didn't realize I had a whole page of notes just on trains, but that's, I promise, that's the end of it. Okay. Here's a posting on Facebook that I am in total agreement with. Okay, I don't know who posted it, but I saw it and said, hey, I've got to say this on my show. Quote, when you ban books before you ban guns, you've admitted you're more afraid of children learning than you are of them dying by mass shootings. I assume this poster meant. Okay. Stuart Stevens of the Lincoln Project. Now, the Lincoln Project, better known as the Never Trumpers, those are Republicans responsible, thinking, caring Republicans that I can get behind. The Lincoln Project. Okay. And this is Stuart Stevens, who was one of the founders of the Lincoln Project. Quote, Trump gave the Republican base permission to be their worst possible selves, meaning hateful, anti-LGBTQ racists. Okay. And they've come through. You know, I'm talking about the MAGA head base. Okay. Good news. Carbon 180. Okay, now this is a relatively new nonprofit founded by UC Berkeley students in 2015. So they've been around going on 8 years now. Okay, Gianna Amador and Noah Deitch, capital DEICH. They founded Carbon 180. And what does it do? Okay, they lobby and are a clearinghouse for ways to decarbonize the atmosphere. And we need to get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, in addition to just not putting more in there. Both ways are necessary now, unfortunately. Okay. Plus, Gianna Amador launched the Carbon Removal Alliance, a group of startups and investors that will lobby for, quote, high quality, permanent carbon removal. Now, there's a number of ways that Carbon 180 advocates for. Okay. Their headquarters just recently moved to Washington, D.C. from Oakland, California, right across the bay. And they are a 4-star charity, as reported by Charity Navigator. Okay. Go Google them and see if you want to donate a few bucks that are lying around in your bank account. Okay, right now, Aaron Burns is the executive director. Okay, I'm not going to explain every single method that they advocate for removing carbon dioxide out of the air, but the main one that they advocate for is direct air capture, capital DAC. Okay, these are they look like refineries. There's a couple up in Canada, a couple of smaller ones in Washington, and one back in Vermont, I believe. But they have fans, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't know exactly how they work. But intake fans suck in air, and the carbon dioxide is chemically removed. And in some businesses, the carbon dioxide is then remade into fuels, airline fuels. Okay. And the second way is reforesting. Geez, wow. I got to get my mouth working properly. Tree planting is what they mean. Now, that's a very expensive process, but there are a lot of organizations that have volunteers that will do this. Tree planting. Okay. Soil carbon sequestration. Ground up rock dust sprinkled over farmlands enhances the natural soil sucking of carbon dioxide out of the air. More and more farmers are taking part in this, which is a good thing. Okay, enough of that. Whew. Deep breath. Okay, real excellent news. Okay, completely new topic now. Dwayne Wade's words to his 15-year-old transgender daughter, who just legally became Zaya, capital Z-A-Y-A. And I'm going to quote him exactly. All right. Quote, "As your father, all I've wanted to do is get it right. I've sat back and watched how gracefully you've taken on the public scrutiny, and even though it's not easy, I watched you walk out of that house every morning as yourself. I admire how you've handled the ignorance in our world. I admire what you face every day. As your father, my job isn't to create a version of myself or direct your future. My role is to be a facilitator to your hopes, your wishes, and your dreams. Zaya, you've made me a better human just simply by being who you were born to be, a baby girl, Zaya Wade." Here, here. I really admire those sentiments, and naturally there's been a trove of hate mail and tweets directed at him, even some of them directed at Zaya. But there's also been a lot of love and understanding, and they both and the whole family deserve all the love and understanding and acceptance that the world can give them. Okay, more good news from Montgomery County, Maryland. All right. Which is near D.C., Washington, D.C. Okay. Charlemagne Chateau, which was her drag name, held a drag story time event at the Loyalty Bookstore in Silver Springs, Maryland. Of course, the cosplaying Proud Boys were there protesting. But in this case, the Parasol Patrol that protects kids and their parents that go inside to participate or just watch the performance were there too, with their rainbow parasols that shield the attendees. The police were there as well, and this was on February 18th of this year. Also, on February 25th at Crazy Aunt Helen's bookstore on 8th Street Southeast in D.C. in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. The story time was hosted by Tara Hoot, capital T-A-R-A, capital H-O-O-T, which was her stage name. All right. I don't want to go on a rant about wondering why MAGA-head Republicans and these stupid guys that go around in their camo outfits and have their guns with them in states where open carry is allowed. Okay, that will be for another later show. Okay, bad news. Okay, of course, Republican states, 14 bills were introduced aiming to restrict drag shows across Arizona, Arkansas, Missouri, Nebraska, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia. What is wrong with these Republicans? Why? I suspect religion has quite a lot to do with it. The fundamentalist Christian nationalists. Okay. Last year, meaning 2022, anti-LGBTQ events comprised 40% of the Proud Boys demonstrating efforts. They demonstrate against a lot of things, but 40% of their demonstrations were against drag time, story time. Okay, in 2021, the year before that, it was only 8%. Guns were reported at 17 anti-LGBTQ protests in 2022. Okay, Jonathan Hamilt, capital H-A-M-I-L-T, he was the founder of the National Drag Story Hour organization, said, quote, "The only scary thing about a drag story hour is one of these conservative white men with a gun. It's not what we're reading. It's not what we're singing. It's not our arts and crafts projects. It's literally the opposition trying to kill us." Well, fortunately, there haven't been any shooting deaths so far. And there are 50 chapters of drag story hours, drag time story hours across the country. I need another sip. My throat's drying out. Okay. 48 minutes. I'm not going to be able to finish all of this. Okay, in a related bit of story, Flame, and that's her drag stage name, says from New York, quote, "At this point, although it's always a bit scary and tense, it has also become routine. And we have developed protocols and have gotten volunteer community support to help keep us all safe. The Proud Boys are building alliances with other extremist groups like the Patriot Front, QAnon, neo-Nazis, the NSF, and a group called Gays Against Groomers, or GAG for short, and other Republican MAGA hate groups. Okay. And on that note, horrible person news. Jamie Mitchell, capital Jaimee, Mitchell, capital Mitchell. She's the founder of GAG, Gays Against Groomers. Okay, she was a content creator for a far-right marketing company called Arsenal Media and X Strategies, which is a right-wing social media firm. GAG's Twitter account was done on June 6th of 2022, and GAG has hosted anti-LGBTQ rallies alongside Moms for Liberty and the Proud Boys. It's compared to Libs of TikTok, which is a hate group against the LGBTQ community. She must have searched diligently online to find the most outrageous examples of truly sexualized drag performers in sex nightclubs, and she posted them and claimed that our kids are being exposed to this. Well, another MAGA head GOP lie. Kids are not allowed where those types of performances are allowed for adults and adult entertainment. Okay. No kids would ever be allowed in them, but no matter, Jamie Mitchell has them on her GAG website. She is truly a horrible person, and she's not gay, even though they say gays against grooming. Okay, I have a nice, bright, shiny quarter in my pocket that I will give to anyone who makes her just disappear for good off this planet Earth. Okay? You know where to find me? I'll actually give you the quarter. Okay. Horrible person from Iowa, Skylar Wheeler. He's a Republican in the House of Representatives. House Bills 112 in Iowa. House Bill 112 gives MAGA parents a way to report teachers anonymously, of course. And what would they report? Parents, MAGA parents, if teachers are suspected of teaching CRT or talking about gay issues. Okay. The Republican states are becoming fascists. The dystopia that's in our future, if we don't all band together and vote out all Republicans. Okay, I got a good news here, and I'm going to have to end this diatribe, this rant, fairly soon. It's 55 minutes. Okay, good news. New Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond, okay, that's capital Gentner, Drummond, has withdrawn the previous Attorney General's 2022 legal opinion that allowed public funding of religious charter schools. The previous guy was John O'Connor. So non-religious taxpayers' monies are not going to fund explicitly religious charter schools. Okay, oh boy, it's 56. Okay, I'm going to put all these on next week's show. Okay, real quick. Quack doctor, bad news. Florida's Surgeon General and a number of the Quack Medical Group, America's frontline doctors, I've talked about them before, Joseph Ladapo, fudged the data on a dubious COVID study. Dr. Ladapo of Florida, the Surgeon General appointed by Ron DeFascist, you are, where's my finger? Okay. You are a quack. All right? Out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Next week's show, which will be recorded, 22nd or something, broadcast on the 19th, is going to be a special show. My own personal growing up exposure to racism. Okay, until then, goodbye, everybody. Pet your cat.